Wondering what the very best archer pairs are in Rise of Kingdoms? Well, today we've brought on a special guest, an archer master, to help us answer that question. So stick around in this video for the very best archer investments in Rise of Kingdoms. Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, a sponsored content creator for Rise of Kingdoms, and today we're doing a follow-up to the popular video we launched just yesterday about the top cavalry pairs. Now, I'm a master of cavalry, but I would not say I'm a master of archers. So we've brought with us a special guest onto the show today. You may know them. In fact, you very likely do. It's Hova from Kingdom 1307. They run a archer community called the Archer's Den, and they will be the master, the expert guidance that you all are looking for. So in this video, we'll compare some of what I would have recommended to what the true master would advise. That way you've got the best guidance. And Hova, welcome. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Chisgule. It's really nice to be on video and just to be here with you.
This should be a lot of fun. Today, our agenda, for those of you who want to jump to any portion of the video, you can use the timestamps in the description. We're going to talk first about the commanders that just don't make the cut, so that you know we considered all of them. Then we're going to talk about a few honorable mentions, and then we'll jump right into the top 4. These are the very best archers in Rise of Kingdoms that you can pair together. From there, we'll have a legendary commander investment list at the tail end of the video. So if you want to know which commanders do I invest in and in what order, that'll be at the end. So let's start with the commanders that don't make the cut. Now, I have seen your list. However, there was certainly some overlap for us of the commanders that really just don't quite make the cut here. And the first that doesn't make the cut is El Cid. Now, I would say, look, El Cid has some amazing utility. The disarm is really cool. He's got 4 skills, good in the open field. And in a game mode like Ark of Osiris, you will get below 50%. And it's not like you're taking extra wounds by virtue of doing so and have a higher repair bill. But he doesn't have AoE damage, and that's why he wouldn't make the cut for me.
Chisgule, just like you, El Cid is not in my list. He just does not output enough damage for me. Archers are huge into damage. The 1,000 damage factor from his active, the 10% chance of 1,000 damage factor, it just all doesn't add up to enough huge red numbers.
Big red numbers, baby. That's what the archers are all about.
Okay. It's all about how much damage we can put out.
The next commander that we did not include, although you might be surprised because he's got some big red numbers all right, is Edward of Woodstock. And the struggle I have with Edward of Woodstock, the reason he doesn't make the top 4 lists, it's not to say that he's a bad commander. And keep in mind, this list is oriented toward open field brawls, by the way. This is not rallies. This is not garrison stuff. These are top commanders for big open field brawls where there's lots of people duking it out, like the Ruins or Altar of Darkness, or just open field combat in KVK. The challenge I have with Edward of Woodstock is that his active skill takes so long to fire up that sometimes people just walk away before it fires off. So they use an active skill on you and then walk away, and you're just kind of like, wait a minute, I didn't get to use my big damage ability back to you. Plus, because they use their active skill first, yours is weaker.
Yeah, Chisgule, exactly. However, my main 2 things of reason why Edward of Woodstock is on my list is his 3rd ability of skill damage. It's only 25%, while YSG brings 50%. So as well as his 4th skill. Archer attack bonus plus 40%. However, he loses defense. And just like on your cavalry video, when you lose defense, you become more swarmable.
Yeah, man, I've accumulated some real nice hospital bills using Edward of Woodstock. Oh, gosh. I'm happy to move away and graduate from Edward of Woodstock to other commanders. Speaking of which, are there any other commanders that are not making the cut today for the top 4?
That is the only 2 archer commanders that don't make the cut for me. And I do want to give an honorable mention to Edward for Edward and Tommy. That is a huge march that I still use solely because of how big those red numbers are.
Yeah, the debuff from Tommy is really nice. Spoiler alert, sounds like Tommy is going to make the list at some point. So let's jump into then the honorable mentions. These are pairs that are good, but they don't make the top 4. Were there any pairs that you wanted to kind of shout out Besides perhaps that like Edward Tommy combo, which obviously is quite strong for debuffing. The two were made for each other, but it's not really what you're looking for in the open field.
Yeah, so I have actually two marches, and this was kind of like a spoiler into what my top four are. So my honorable marches are Cyrus Ram and Cyrus Nebu. Cyrus Ram is the most powerful 1v1 combo game. However, brawls aren't 1v1. That is the reason why he's in my honorable mention. He is amazing in dealing upfront damage and straight to your face. However, it just doesn't quite make the top four for me. And Cyrus Nebu is in the honorable mentions solely because, and a little disclaimer, I am maxing Nebu at reset today, so I have not had actual war experience with Nebu, but I just don't think Cyrus is a strong enough archer to make it into my top four.
That makes a ton of sense. The thing that's kind of cool about Cyrus is that although he offers really no tankiness whatsoever, he is in many ways kind of like Herald in that he'll punish you if you attack him. He has an AoE ability that has a chance to fire off when he's being attacked, but he is kind of squishy, with the exception perhaps of his expertise skill giving you some rage, giving you some defense. So if you ignore him, he's got some kind of nasty debuffs. He makes it so that the target takes additional damage. He makes it so that the target has less skill damage that they deal. This is a big deal.
Yeah, Cyrus, I immediately maxed Cyrus for our war in Lost Kingdom 521. I rallied with Cyrus. I fought with him in the field. He was amazing to swarm things with, to have a 3-march archer march swarm. He did well with YSG, and particularly when I rallied with him. And he was, honestly, he was my favorite counter rallier. Now, I did not have Nebu during war, so I was not able to compare the two, but I am very happy with my Cyrus. However, I feel the normal free-to-play archer or free-to-play player, I would not lean towards maxing Cyrus.
Well, let's get into the list then, the top four. Now, before you share the commanders that you would pair together in your top four list, I actually did a top 3 list myself, and I want to just share what I came up with, just so that everybody can see, like, this is why we kind of brought in the master to help guide where everybody should go here. But the pairings that I put together were at number 3, Ramesses Esong. At number 2, Nebu Ramesses. And at number 1 for me, I put together Artemisia and Ramesses. Spoiler alert, I made it really all about Ramesses. Obviously, I think very highly of this commander. But with that said, let's see how what I put together stacks up against the master list from the Archer's Den. Hova, what's your number 4 pair?
My number 4, and I had to do 4 instead of 3 because I love archers. My number 4 is Nebu Ram. Like you said, Ram is just such a powerful commander, and you'll see a trend in mine as well. Nebu's AoE and his force skill. His force skill is huge in the field. Reducing rage of the enemy commander allows him so he doesn't cast, which means less big red numbers for them. And you'll be able to nuke them down before they hit you, which is huge. And Ram is just the perfect archer for me. The reason why is because he's sustainable, he has attack, he has proccable attack, and he also has proccable defense, and he has skill damage reduction. And he has a debuff of defense on the enemy. So
he's completely out of control. Ramesses is completely out of control. I mean, I kind of realized Saladin was all over my cavalry list. And I think Ramesses is really like the Saladin of archers. And not only does he cut healing better than Saladin, not only does he give more stats than Saladin, he has a heal. He also is reducing skill damage taken like Saladin. I mean, the similarities here were actually fairly astonishing.
I completely agree with you. And he has a 2k nuke.
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
Right. When you expertise him, that is a solid 2k nuke with a defense reduction, which, like, I have been really emphasizing the importance of debuffs recently, in part because I realized everybody's been losing their mind over Concealed Dagger, and I know I talk about this a lot, but if you like Concealed Dagger as an accessory that is debuffing an enemy, then you certainly should be excited by commanders that have debuffs. And the defense reduction from Ramesses is better, straight better, than the Concealed Dagger. So, like, this should make you pretty excited. And, like, yes, Ramesses is all over the list for good reason. I like the Nebu pairing. I think that's really solid.
So moving on to my third. So my third is Artemisia. So the reason why is because Thomas's debuff is so strong. Being able to do 30 to 45% skill damage taken for the enemy, and that's skill damage taken. So that's a debuff. So you're applying that to the target. So that means everyone around you is getting that increased skill damage. So that is just huge. And then pair that with Art's self-silence allows her to reach her max stacks of like 10 to 15. I'm not sure. It depends on your talent tree of how much you can get. But those two, and also increasing 50% damage, it's just huge for archers.
So on the topic of debuffs, Tamaris also, by the way, is doing a 30% defense reduction. Big deal. I love the skill damage taken to the target. Huge. To your point, Tamaris is actually a team player and has always needed someone to pair with that can let her active skill go to max damage, which only happens if she's got enough time for all of those stacks to start to accumulate. So I like this Artemisia Tamaris pair. It's not something that I would have come up with, although some of my alliance members did say, like, hey, Chisgule, this combo is actually kind of doing stuff. This is the number 3 combo. I really like it. What's cooking for us at number 2?
Just as you said it right before, Art Ram. Art Ram is the most tanky archer pair that I've seen so far. The second most is Art Sid. However, I like Art Ram better because it's sharper. It's more damage. It's more red numbers, and you get that debuff of that defense debuff that we talked about with Ram. And when you swarm, when Art Ram is swarmed down, that third skill from Ram is proccing even more. So you get even more archer attack, which makes it's like a cannon, Chisgule. It's just so much attack, so much red numbers. And when Art procs are fourth, that's 50% more or more all damage. So that is skill damage too. So that's the reason why that's my number 2, as well as Art having the defense tree, which is very interesting because no other archer commander has a defense tree, and that's the reason why she's primary instead of Ram Art.
I love that combo, honestly. So there's so much that works there. The amount of defensive stats here is astonishing. People are going to try to target down archers first. We just know. Everybody's looking, thinking they're going to try to find the E-Song somewhere, and everybody's got an expertise E-Song, right? So the way you protect your archers is with some really tanky archers that are going to punish. I really like the Artemisia, who is doing a little bit of damage to herself with the healing of the Ramesses. If you ignore it, it's going to wreck you. If you start attacking it, it's going to wreck you. I like a lot of what that combo is doing, and you know, it's not a coincidence that, like, a lot of these commanders, I actually don't have expertise. So it's great to have you here where you've got a lot of experience using these commanders and you know, you're not just theory crafting, which is awesome.
Yeah, I've used Art Ram all throughout KVK 4, KVK 5. This last KVK, the hardest part about archers is you have to split them up. So when you create a 3-march combo, you can't use like the best 3 or 4 because you'll see Ram in every one of them. I don't have 3 Rams. If I could, I would have 3 Rams in a heartbeat.
So glowing endorsement here, likely to be a Ramesses expertise recommendation coming up. So let's talk about your number 1 pair though, and then we can go very briefly into some talent builds for all these different primary commanders. That way folks know what they can use. So what is the number 1 archer pairing in February of 2021?
My number 1 is the one and only Ram YSG. Ram YSG is the best, hands down, archer march. It is incredible. Ram deals the 2K nuke. YSG deals a 1,700,000 nuke, and that's AoE. So it's going to hit 5 out of a 15% reduction. YSG has the 50% skill damage boost. So that weaponizes Ram YSG even more. And YSG has an attack proc with rage. So you'll be able to fire off Ram even more, which not only are you dealing damage like we talked about with Ram, but you're lowering the defense of the enemy. So it's just even becoming even more swarmable. It's just, honestly, it's just what I call it is a pummeler. So it just goes through and it just rips through infantry like no one's business.
Now, it's funny, like E-Song, I bet you all these people are like, oh my God, I expertised E-Song. E-Song is nowhere on this list. Oh my gosh, what's going on? So E-Song doesn't just make the list, but he makes actually the top of your list. which I think is pretty interesting. Now, I want to double back for a second and say on this topic of Isong, what about Artemisia with Isong? Why does that not make the top list here?
So I do like Art YSG, but the reason why it's not on my top list is because these 4 commanders are better than Art YSG, in my opinion. Art, however, deals that silence. She's slowing down her casting, and YSG doesn't really love that. And I think you've made a video before about over raging. So if you're silencing yourself and YSG is proccing, trying to give you rage, but it's not doing anything because Art's not casting. But that's the reason why it's not on my top 4.
That's definitely helpful and a good explanation, because certainly that's a combo that I was kind of considering, like, should I be looking at like expertising Artemisia and then using those 2 together? So I like, however, this number 1 choice. The Ramesses is giving you the tank with certainly some punch behind it, just like Saladin, right? He's got enough punch and enough tankiness. And honestly, I would argue perhaps Saladin's talents are a little more tanky than what Ramesses has to offer.
Oh, for sure.
I would say that the skills here are really quite exceptional on Ramesses for his survivability. He actually has a heal baked in, along with that defensive capability, and then you're hiding the Isong behind the Ramesses, so you still get really meaningful offensive punch with the tankiness of the Ramesses, and you're using Ramesses primary, so you're not advertising target Isong, kill me first, right?
100% Chisgule, for sure.
Let's get a look at some of the talents that you've recommended. We'll go look at these primary commanders, and we'll start with number 4 and then make our way up. All right, we've got the talents for Nebu up on the screen. I think it's interesting here that you've gone all in on the Archer tree. This is the Nebu Ram combination, right?
Correct. So this is the tree that actually Pinpin from 307 gave me. I don't have Nebu yet, so we tested. This is the tree that she's tested and that we've talked about as well. The reason why there's so much Archer tree is because it's just so good. The whistling arrows is like its own little ring attached to it. So I'm huge into the Archer tree. The only time I go into skill tree really deep is if I'm using Cyrus or if I'm using YSG primary, which is not often.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I'll add here one thing you could do is you could shave off some of the points for attack or some of the points for rage generation. And you could drop those down into the skill tree to get 6% more march speed if you felt that was something you really needed. But I think, you're not picking archers to move fast. You're picking archers to do damage, right?
Oh, for sure.
Okay, here is the Artemisia build. And what I think is really interesting here is that you've made a major trade-off. You've cut a ton of points from the archer tree and put them into the defense tree. Most noteworthy, you didn't pick the very top talent in the archer tree, which has, if I remember correctly, a 10% chance to deal 25% extra damage. So walk through for me kind of what this tree is designed to do.
Yeah, so this tree is essentially designed to be a tanky archer tree. So that was not such a thing. Like, no one put those combos or those words together, tanky archer, before the defense tree came to Artemisia. So my thoughts behind this tree is to give her as much survivability, as much power, as much tank as possible to carry Tamiris' debuff, to weaponize and carry and keep Ram on the field longer so he can start casting his defense debuff as much as possible as well. Testito formation and the big medical supply heal and the constant scale reduction is exactly what I needed in mind, instead of those arms of the archer tree where the attack and the rage generation. And I dropped whistling arrows for that trade-off.
Yeah, I think this makes a ton of sense here. And the only question I would have about where else you could kind of go with this build, so because you're basically assuming like they're going to target me, right?
Yeah.
They're going to target me. So I need to survive more than I need to focus on dealing more damage in this instance. Would it make sense, potentially, maybe in a game mode like Ark of Osiris, although I actually have an answer in my head. I think I've answered my own question. I think the answer might actually be no. But would it make sense to pick up the sort of top talent in the defense tree that gives you extra rage when you get below 30%?
Yeah, so that's a good comment, Chisgule. So I do remember that talent was changed recently. I don't know if you covered it in a video.
Card up in the
But
top if you'd like to see that
yeah,
video.
but that talent was changed, and this is the tree that I've used since then. I haven't really experimented much into that talent, so I can't recommend or disrecommend it. However, if I'm looking at it, when troops led by this commander are reduced to 30% units remaining, that is something that happens all the time in Ark of Osiris. You do
Right.
not come home in the middle, you just die out. So, that if you're making, and all my pairings are mostly brawl related. I'm not an expert per se in Arc, maybe soon, but that is something I would invest in if I was doing an Arc build for.
All right, so the last commander where we need to talk about their talents is Ramesses. And the unfortunate news, I would say this is unfortunate. I'll be kind of curious for your thoughts. The unfortunate news about Ramesses is that not only does he have the versatility tree, he's also got the attack tree, which most people are not really using. That leaves us putting a lot of points into the archer tree with not a lot of flexibility, right?
Correct. So this is a good observation, Chisgule. So the attack tree is amazing in rallies. On the field, it is not even close as good as the skill tree. Just like you said, for archers, I would dump points in the archer tree. It is that good for the field. And then I would just do the basic attack tree all the way to effortless.
You get a little bit of march speed along the way to effortless, which is kind of nice, kind of like that. So this to me makes a ton of sense as the talents that you would pick. Literally, like every point you could put into the archer tree. Wish there was room to put more, and then a little bit into that attack tree. Going to effortless makes sense. Getting the damage reduction right over here and a little bit of counterattack boost makes sense. I love these talents.
Yeah, the one talent that I would highlight, and this is not for the field, this is for rallies. I know this is a field video, but if you look at Fight to the Death, which is on the attack tree, increases all damage dealt by 2% up to 6%, but increases the damage taken by 1%. So if you're rallying an objective and you're rallying with archers, normally you have the field. If you don't have the field, you're going to have a bad time because it's going to get swarmed down by countless marches. So, but if you're constantly dealing twice the amount of damage as the opposing enemy, then you're going to get a better report. So I would look into investing in Fight to the Death if you're looking at a rally tree for RAM.
Yeah. No, I mean, that just makes a ton of sense. I literally was thinking about, like, where else could you put points? And that was one of the spots. And I was like, right. Would you really want your archers on the field to take more damage? No, because that's really good when you're not getting swarmed and really bad when you are getting swarmed. And with Ramesses E-Song, you have put the target on your back.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, everyone loves to hit archers. That's the one thing. Everyone's like, oh, they're swarmable. They immediately evaporate. I am the living proof that we do survive, that we have to clear a lot of hospitals.
On the topic of clearing hospitals and being a target, let's say that you're using Ramesses E-Song a lot. That's the #1 pick here. And you wanted a little bit more of a tanky option. How would you feel about swapping out the E-Song for a Nebu to get the extra defensive stats, a little bit of march speed? It's still got area of effect damage. What do you think of that?
Ram Nebu is actually my #1 recommendation for rallies, even though this is not a rally video. But for the field, I really think that that'd be a great march, solely because of Nebu's force skill, increasing all damage all the time by 15% and reducing the rage of the enemy, and providing the one thing that Ram is missing, which is constant defense. He does have a proccable defensive skill, but Nebu gives him that 30% defense 24/7. So that is also a wonderful couple.
Now, this tier list, this set of the very best archer commanders, assumes you're bringing only one march to the battlefield. But the reality is that some players will be interested in having 2 or more archer marches that they bring to the battlefield. So if you were to make 2 pairs of archers to bring to the battlefield, what would those 2 pairs be if you could pick literally any archer in the game, or really any commander in the game?
So my 2 easy would be Ram YSG and Art Tommy. Art Tommy is needed for sure because of Tommy's debuff. Because if you're thinking you're bringing 5 marches, so if you have a Guan Leo, you have a Guan Alex, you have a Harold, you have Saladin William, they're all dealing skill damage. They're all taking in from the tummy as well, and also the Ram's defense debuff. So the big thing, as you said, Chisgule, about this video is debuffs for me as well with archers.
Got it. So that's really the combination of your number 1 pair with the number 3 pair, right? That's actually pretty solid.
Correct. Yeah, definitely those two would be my 2 archers. Chisgule.
Very nice. So let's get into the investment portion of this video. Like, what if I'm a new player in the Rise of Kingdoms, and the context is changed, by the way, by the time you get to KVK Season 3, you're on the rails. But as soon as that ends, now you're dumped into everybody having the exact same commander and a choice to pick what you want from Mightiest Governor. You'll have a choice for what you want to pick for the Wheel of Fortune. What should a new player be investing in? And I'll jump in for the first part of this because this part's easy. Obviously, the first commander you invest in is unchanged. That's Isong, right? Like, no brainer.
Yeah, Isong, if you don't have a max Isong, you need to be maxing Isong. I mean, he does everything, and he does everything superb. He's in canyons, he's chaining barbs, he's on the PvP, he's rallying, he's in arc. I don't know, he could farm if you want.
Oh god, you didn't get advice from a Chisgule video to farm with your Isong. Okay, so we've got Isong as the first investment, but from there things get a little tricky. You've got a real dry spell. The next archers you would even have a chance to do before you even finish KVK Season 3 is going to be Edward and Tamaris, and Tamaris is pretty tricky to gain access to. She is a Mightiest Governor commander.
So Tamaris is actually the 4th on my list. She is amazing. She is great. However, she is a Mighty Governor commander, so she is more difficult to get. But with the changes and how after KVK Season 3, if you get a 10th spot, you can unlock her. Or if you get a 15th and anything in any Mighty Governor after a certain period, you'll be able to unlock her. So that's amazing. You don't have to be pigeonholed into 4 certain MGEs for her. But she is number 4 on my investment list.
Got it. So at this point, are we still holding then? We invested in Isong. We're skipping the cavalry commanders, Khan and Saladin. We're skipping Richard the First. We're not doing any gold key commanders with universal sculptures at this point.
Do not invest into El Cid unless you are a whale in Season 1.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense because Isong El Cid is a great rally in Season 1 of KVK, by the way, a great rally. Where then are we going? Are we advising people to just hold sculptures until after KVK Season 3? Or are we doing Alexander the Great?
I would hold sculptures, and as soon as that wheel comes up, you max ram. You max ram as fast as you can blink.
Okay.
And you get a ram YSG march, and then you start prepping for your Mighty Governors, which is unlocking Artemisia, which is number 3 on my list, and then unlocking Tamaris, which is number 4 on my list. So if you're able to hold sculptures, you can max ram YSG, and then you can start working on getting your art to 5511, and then your Tamaris to 5111, and then start working towards maxing those commanders out.
Okay, got it. So you could start to work on potentially unlocking Tamaris sooner, but you're recommending that you should not put sculptures into her in a way that would prevent you from instant expertising Ramesses after you finish the first wheel of Ramesses, right?
For sure. And it all depends on how you want to spend your gems as well. Completely spinning a wheel 300 times is going to take you around 218,000 gems. So if you'd rather just save and hoard, unlock, spin it 10 times, 4 times, and then immediately maxing RAM just like that and spending your gems elsewhere, I would completely back you up on doing that.
So we've presented a lot of options today for Archer players. We've provided the very best pairs. We've provided an investment list. We've talked about the very best talents. Is there any other guidance that you've got for aspiring Archer players in Rise of Kingdoms?
Oh, man. What I would say is never let your hopes down. Always, always remember that even if you sad face, someone else is sad facing from you too. You deal damage, you take damage. So always keep your head high. I do want to give a big shout out to my mom before we end. Love you, Mom. And a big shout out to Cloud from Kingdom 77, as well as an original Archer player that got me into Archers.
Very nice. If you'd like more information about Archers, be sure to check out the Archers Den. Link to that Discord in the description. That's actually where I reached Hova to coordinate to make this video. Hova, really great to have you on here. Really appreciate having the opportunity to bring a master of Archers onto our channel today. Anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up?
No, just thank you for having me, Chisgule, and let's smash the kingdoms together.
All right. Well, on that note, leave a comment with any other questions that you've got. I'll have a card up in the top for some Archer-related videos. And until next time, you have fun smashing the kingdom.